Hello, YouTubers and NFL fans everywhere. This is Matt, the NFL Fanatic, giving you my Week 12 2017 NFL predictions. Well, before I get started with my video, I would like to wish all the people out there a happy Thanksgiving. I hope that everybody has a great time with their families. They all enjoy a great amount of food, especially the turkey, the stuffing, the mashed potatoes, the rolls, the green beans, and all that great Thanksgiving traditional food affair. And the third thing, I hope everybody enjoys the football games that are going to go on Thanksgiving like they usually do. You have three interesting games. I would say that the Vikings-Lions probably has the most interest, where Giants-Redskins doesn't. And you have the Cowboys and Chargers in the middle with kind of equal ground of where they both are in their respective playoff chases. But I hope everybody enjoys those games. I think they are going to be better games than you think. And I just hope everybody enjoys those games with your family and while you're eating your Thanksgiving food. So, happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there that celebrates. Alright, so let me tell you guys what happened for my last week. Let me recap how my picks went last week. So, against the spread, I had my first losing record in a few weeks. I went 6-7-1 against the spread, which equals about 46%. And then straight up this week, for the first time in a few weeks as well, I could not hit 10 wins. I always like to get 10 or more wins per week, just straight up. I went 9-5, which equals 64%. And now overall for the year, I am now 80-74-5 against the spread. And I am now straight up 105-55. So that equals up to about 52% against the spread. And straight up, I am 65.7. So about 66% straight up. So these are pretty good numbers. And I've already hit, like I said before, I've already hit my against the spread total, at least above 500 at this point through 11 weeks. And I'm incredibly excited to try to see if I can get up to that 53-54%, so I can continue to build on it next year, where I'm getting better at picking against the Las Vegas lines. And straight up, I'm having a very good year. Is one of the better years as well, because I'm at 66% right now, and with this last 5-week stretch coming up, this last 6-week stretch coming up, with 16 games, there's going to be a lot of room for improvement. And hopefully I can get up to that 68, 69%, and maybe even 70% if I am that hot picking games. But I am very excited for how this last stretch is going to go. And I'm above 500 both ways, so you really can't ask for much more than that. Alright, so time for my picks. So, this Thursday on Thanksgiving, the first game, when the 8-2 Minnesota Vikings go to the 6-4 Detroit Lions. The Minnesota Vikings are 3-point favorites in this game. I like Minnesota here -3, and Minnesota straight up. And then the next game, when the 4-6 Los Angeles Chargers go to the 5-5 Dallas Cowboys. The Los Angeles Chargers are 2.5-point favorites in this game. I like the LA Chargers here -2.5, and the LA Chargers straight up. And then the next game, when the 2-8 New York Giants go to the 4-6 Washington Redskins. The Washington Redskins are 7.5-point favorites in this game. I like the Giants here +7.5, but I will take the Washington Redskins straight up. And then on Sunday, when the 4-6 Tampa Bay Buccaneers go to the 6-4 Atlanta Falcons, the Atlanta Falcons are 10-point favorites in this game. I like Tampa Bay here +10, but I'm going to take the Atlanta Falcons straight up. Then the next game, when the 4-6 when the 0-10 Cleveland Browns go to the 4-6 Cincinnati Bengals. The Cincinnati Bengals are 8-point favorites in this game. I like Cincinnati here -8, and Cincinnati straight up. And then the next game, when the 6-4 Tennessee Titans go to the 3-7 Indianapolis Colts. The Tennessee Titans are 3-point favorites in this game. I like Tennessee here -3, and Tennessee straight up. Then the next game, when the 5-5 Buffalo Bills go to the 6-4 Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs are 10-point favorites in this game. I like Buffalo here +10, but I will take the Kansas City Chiefs straight up. Then the next game, when the 4-6 Miami Dolphins go to the 8-2 New England Patriots, The New England Patriots are 16.5-point favorites in this game. It is a ridiculous spread to have this game at. But with how the Patriots are playing, especially with the Dolphins going into New England, I am going to swallow the points and tell you to take New England minus 16.5 against the Miami Dolphins. I may regret that pick because that is a huge, ridiculous spread for any team. And Miami at least has, playable talent. The only really two teams I can see them putting up a 16.5-point spread are the Browns and the Niners. And the Dolphins are at least better than those two teams. So I'm going to take the New England Patriots minus 16.5 and New England straight up. Then the next game, when the 7-3 Carolina Panthers go to the 4-6 New York Jets. The Carolina Panthers are 5-point favorites in this game. I like Carolina here minus 5 and Carolina straight up. Then the next game, when the 3-7 Chicago Bears, I'm sorry, right here, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, they have 3 wins. So when the 3-7 Chicago Bears go to the 9-1 Philadelphia Eagles, the Philadelphia Eagles are 13.5-point favorites in this game. I like Chicago here plus 13.5, but I will take the Philadelphia Eagles straight up. Then the next game, when the 8-2 New Orleans Saints go to the 7-3 Los Angeles Rams, the New Orleans Saints are 2.5-point underdogs in this game. I like New Orleans plus 2.5, and I like New Orleans straight up. Then the next game, when the 6-4 Seattle Seahawks go to the 1-9 San Francisco 49ers, the Seattle Seahawks are 6.5-point favorites in this game. I like San Francisco here plus 6.5, but I will take the Seattle Seahawks straight up. Then the next game, when the 7-3 Jacksonville Jaguars go to the 4-6 Arizona Cardinals, the Jacksonville Jaguars are 5-point favorites in this game. I like Jacksonville here minus 5 and Jacksonville straight up. Then the next game, when the 4-6 Denver Broncos go to the 4-6 Oakland Raiders, the Oakland Raiders are 5-point favorites in this game. I like Denver here plus 5, but I will take the Oakland Raiders straight up. And then the Sunday night game, when the 5-5 Green Bay Packers go to the 8-2 Pittsburgh Steelers, the Pittsburgh Steelers are 14-point favorites in this game against the Green Bay Packers. But just kind of like with New England, the two best teams in the AFC, I have enough confidence to tell you to go with Pittsburgh minus 14 and Pittsburgh straight up. And in the Monday night game, when the 4-6 Houston Texans go to the 5-5 Baltimore Ravens, the Baltimore Ravens are 7-point favorites in this game. I like Baltimore here minus 7 and Baltimore straight up. Alright, so time for my thoughts on each game. The Vikings over the Lions. This is one of those games where I know the Lions are at home on Thanksgiving, and they've won the last few games in Thanksgiving consecutively, I believe, since 2013. Yeah, when they beat the Packers back in 2013. They haven't lost a Thanksgiving game since then. And last year, this game was against the Minnesota Vikings, and it came down to a horrible Sam Bradford interception late that got Matt Prater to kick the game-winning field goal to get the win, I believe, 16-13. Yeah, it was either 19-16 or 16-13. I believe it was 16-13 for the win for the Detroit Lions. But I just look at this Vikings team, and for me personally, I believe they are the third best team in the NFL behind the Philadelphia Eagles and the New England Patriots. You look at their running game with Latavius Murray and Jerick McKinnon. They've been able to consistently get a solid running game together from those two guys. McKinnon's also a decent pass catcher. They have the number 2 wide receiver in yards and catches in Adam Thielen in the league. Stephon Diggs is playing a decent role at number 2. Kyle Rudolph is playing like Kyle Rudolph, a very good tight end who may be underrated by a lot of people's assumptions, including myself. And you have one of the best, you have probably the most loaded defense in terms of talent depth at every single level of the defense. There are Pro Bowlers and very good players on every single level of that defense, which makes it incredibly hard to score points and move the ball against. And to cap it off, you have Case Keenum playing the best football of his career. The Vikings have won 6 straight games. He's won 5.5. He's contributed in 5.5 of those games, and he's won 5 straight games himself. And it's just amazing because I think Case Keenum has earned the right from the Minnesota Vikings to keep that job for the rest of the year. Because he's played at a level that I don't think Teddy Bridgewater could be able to reach at this point. And I just think for Case Keenum, he's beaten some very talented teams. He's played very efficient football. And this is with Pat Shurmur. That's probably also the most impressive thing. Pat Shurmur is really not known as a great, phenomenal offensive guy. But with Case Keenum and this talent, he's been able to work it very well. That's why I think Mike Zimmer deserves Coach of the Year. But I'm just taking the Vikings because the Lions, they have gone 61 straight games without a 100-yard rusher. And I don't think they're going to get 100 yards on the ground this time. And the Vikings really lost that game based off turnovers. Remember, the final score of that game was 14-7. And the Vikings had a pick and then 2 other fumbles. So they had 3 killer turnovers, including the turnover that knocked out Dalvin Cook for the year. And I just think they're going to be motivated. They're going to have their redemption on their mind. And I think if they play a more clean game, especially with turnovers, they should win this game because I don't think the Lions will be able to move the football. And if you look at the Lions' last 2 weeks, they were in a dogfight with Cleveland for about 60 to 65% of that game a couple weeks ago. And it took Connor Barth getting cut by the Bears, but missing a 46-yard field goal to tie the game. And who knows what could have happened. And also the Vikings have had, like 14, about over 10 turnovers over the last 5 games. So they're getting a lot more opportunities for this team to, make plays and be consistent. The only weakness that may come is Kai Forbath and Matt Prater. Matt Prater is one of the best kickers in the league, and Kai Forbath had one of his worst games on Sunday when he missed 2 decent field goals that he should have made that could have gotten the score at the end up to 30-7. I think this game is going to be a great game. I think the Lions are going to be motivated in front of their home crowd. They are desperate to fight for that division and to fight for a wild card spot. But I just think with how the Vikings are playing, they haven't really had to change anything. And I think Case Keenum's going to feel rested. He's going to feel confident. He's going to feel motivated to right the wrong that happened in Week 4 against the Vikings, where they should have won that game. Minnesota should have, but Detroit's turnover awareness was the difference. I don't think they're going to get as many turnovers. They're not going to fumble as much, and I think the Vikings go on to get another solid, consistent win to get them ready for their next big game when they go to Atlanta next week to take on the Falcons, who are starting to click offensively on all cylinders. So that's why I like Minnesota here -3, and Minnesota straight up. Next game, Chargers over Cowboys. Look, the Cowboys without Tyron Smith, without Ezekiel Elliott, and without Sean Lee are absolute garbage. Dak Prescott is starting to look like a quarterback that rode the Zeke. He rode Zeke's hungry style of running and, hungry amount of talent, the hangry amount of talent, if you will, to become a good quarterback. Because that was Dak Prescott's worst game of his career on Sunday, where he threw a career-high 3 interceptions. He had never thrown 2 interceptions in the first half, and he had never thrown a interception on play action, which I thought was very interesting. With that second interception, that was a play action pass that got tipped, or that got intercepted, and that changed the game. And I know they're going to get Tyron Smith back, and that's going to be a huge help for that entire team. However, they are playing the Los Angeles Chargers, and boy, have they been charged up after how they played against Buffalo. They caused 5 interceptions on Nathan Peterman, 7 total turnovers. Joey Bosa has 10 sacks already this year. He's being incredibly dominant. His partner Melvin Ingram has about 7.5, 8.5 sacks himself, and that is a monster duo that I do not think the Cowboys, even with Tyron Smith being able to play, will be able to stop. And I just think for the Chargers, they have to gain some confidence where, they have the better running back. They have a decent offensive line, and they have better receiving talent than the Cowboys do right now, because at least you have Keenan Allen, Travis Benjamin, Tyrell Williams, all these guys making, very good plays and moving up and down the field. They have Eckler coming out of the backfield, who's helped them as a receiver and a speed runner. They have Casey Hayward. They have Trey Boston. They have a very talented team across the board, except the problem is the Chargers have been more often the chokers than the Chargers this year. But just knowing how the Cowboys are, knowing that they're very vulnerable, and only for the 3rd time in NFL history for the Cowboys. They've lost back-to-back games by 20-plus points. I'm sorry. It's the third time since 2004 that they've lost back-to-back games by 20-plus points. And there's just a part of me, when you look at the Chargers and the Cowboys are a team that, look, they have talent and they're going to play well, and I do expect Dak Prescott to play better than he did last week. However, I'm going to trust the Chargers here in the sense of this is a more talented team, this is a younger team. This is a hungrier team, this is a team that's in a very good position to not only make the playoffs right now, but to win the AFC West, for how bad that division has become. If Tyron can block Bosa really well, it could be an interesting game because that means that Dak has more time to throw and read his routes. And holes are getting open for Zeke to run, for Alfred Morris and Rod Smith to run through. But at the end of the day, I'm going to take the Chargers here because I've seen the Chargers at their best. And I think the Cowboys, they've lost enough talent to even where if the Chargers start to become the chokers again, it won't matter because the Cowboys will either make one bigger mistake or the Chargers will make one more play against a injury-plagued defense. So that's why I like the LA Chargers here minus 2.5 and the LA Chargers straight up. The next game, Washington over New York. I'm going to take Washington because they are the better football team. And the Washington Redskins are basically the AFC version of the Los Angeles Chargers. A very good team with a decent quarterback, decent wide receivers, phenomenal talent tight end, decent offensive lines, and underrated defenses. But at the end of the day, they just have a hard luck QB that can play phenomenally great for so long. But if the game's close enough, he's either going to shrink or he just can't make the plays to win the game. And that man is Kirk Cousins. To me. And again, I've always been a Kirk Cousins skeptic to how he is as a quarterback. I don't think he's a franchise quarterback. I know he puts up numbers, but I don't care about numbers. Numbers to me, after a certain point, don't matter. Kirk Cousins could be 52% completion percentage, have 15 TDs and 10 interceptions, or not 15 TDs, 8 interceptions. But if his team was 8-2, I would say that's a franchise quarterback. Because you know why? His team and himself are winning games, and they're winning at a higher clip to make the playoffs. Because at the end of the day, that 322 yards and 3 TDs, boy, that looked great. But you know what play really mattered? The play where he intentionally grounded the ball that knocked the Redskins out of, field position. All those yards and all that stuff, that's all great and dandy. But that's just all icing. It's an enhancer. It doesn't really, gloss over what really happened in the sense of Kirk Cousins in the biggest moment got an intentional grounding and then fumbled the football in 2 of the final 3 plays of regulation that caused the Redskins to lose that game. But, with that being said, I'm going to take the Redskins here because the Giants got lucky. The Giants got lucky because the Chiefs showed how really bad they are. And I just think, again, the Redskins, even though they don't have Chris Thompson, Jordan Reed may not play again. Jonathan Allen's out for the year. They have their offensive line has been banged up all year, and they've had to, mix and match that. They're not going to have Terrell Pryor this week. I'm just going to take the Redskins because I just feel like the Redskins are just a better run team at this point than the Giants are. Could the Giants win this game? Absolutely. But I'm going to take the Redskins here because I trust the team. They have more talent, and they're still fighting for something. The Giants are just trying to get through the year. And, I think Ben McAdoo, he lucked up into a win, but he's still a horrible head coach. He still deserves to get fired. But he's not going to luck up into a win against the Washington Redskins. I actually think, really, if the Redskins lose this game, Jay Gruden could get fired that next day, and I'd be fine with that. Because that team, with how well they have played this year, because they should have 3 wins out of their 5 games that they've won this year, to the LA Rams on the road, to the Seattle Seahawks on the road, and New Orleans Saints on the road. 3 of the top 4 teams in the NFC, Washington should have a road win on. But they don't. But if they lose a home game against the Giants, I would fire Jay Gruden tomorrow on Black Friday. Make it a really black and dark Monday for him, because if they can't beat the Redskins, they're not making the playoffs, and they are on the verge of having a non-winning record, and definitely probably maybe a losing record, which the Redskins don't need, especially with a guy like Kirk Cousins at the helm. But that's why I'm going to take the Giants plus 7.5, because I just feel like the Redskins have had too many injuries that the Giants are going to hang around with their defense, and Eli Manning will play decent enough football against the division rival to keep them in the game within one score. So that's why I like the Giants plus 7.5, but Washington straight up. Next game, the Falcons over the Bucks. Look, I will acknowledge this to any Atlanta fans. Shout out to Hatbox Nation, a very good prog. The Atlanta Falcons, they got a huge win over the Seattle Seahawks, a win they needed. Even though, again, I blame Pete Carroll more for that loss than the Seattle team, because he made 2 or 3 horrible decisions that basically cost them the game. And I did not know that Cam Chancellor was going to be out probably for the year on Wednesday when I made a video last week. If I knew that Chancellor and Sherman weren't going to play, I probably would have taken Atlanta. But I'm going to take Atlanta here because I just feel like they've gained confidence. After you blow out the Cowboys, and after you only become the 5th or 6th quarterback in NFL history to go, or I'm sorry, the 5th or 6th quarterback in the Wilson Pete Carroll era and beat them in Seattle, I feel like the Falcons have gained their confidence back. And actually, Sarkisian's been able to understand Matt Ryan's offense better, and the numbers are showing that Matt Ryan is playing, again, like the MVP candidate he was last year. And I'm just going to take the Falcons because I just can't trust the Bucs. Like, the Bucs, they played better football under Ryan Fitzpatrick, or they played just as well, and they've been fortunate enough to get a few wins. That is a weird sentence to say, especially with Jameis Winston as the starting quarterback. However, at the end of the day, Tampa's last 2 opponents were the 4-6 Jets and the 4-6 Miami Dolphins. 2 teams that aren't very good. But I'm gonna take the Falcons here just because I feel like the Falcons have some confidence. They want to, maybe give the Georgia Dome one final good in memoriam game before they completely forget about what the Georgia Dome meant to the Falcons for all those years. And I just think for the Bucs, it's going to be one of those things where they're going to be competitive. They could be with Ryan Fitzpatrick. Ryan Fitzpatrick's played the Falcons before, and he has a lot of talent, and he's played pretty well in that system. But the Atlanta Falcons, they have a better defense. Devontae Freeman should be coming back. They have a better offensive line. They have better receivers. And I just trust Matt Ryan now in a whole other level compared to Ryan Fitzpatrick. But I am going to take Tampa plus 10 because I feel like the Tampa Bay talent has started to come, a little more confident, and they have a better kicker now that could have converted a couple field goals to put the Bucs in a better position to win. But I'm going to take the Falcons here because I trust the Falcons' whole team is gaining momentum. The defense is getting better. It's probably the most talented defense Dan Quinn has ever had. And even though the Bucs may be able to move the football or run, spurts here and there, I think the Falcons win this game to go to 7-4 and get ready for their next big game, which is against New Orleans next week. No, in about 2 weeks. So that's why I like Tampa Bay here plus 10, but Atlanta straight up. Next game, Bengals over Browns. This is one of those games where it's the Browns. The Browns were incredibly competitive against Jacksonville. That was a problem for Jacksonville. And honestly, until the Browns win, and I guess I'm happy for Josh Gordon as well. He's back on the practice field. First time in over 2 years he's been able to practice with the team. But I'm going to take the Bengals here because I just can't trust the Browns. And even how bad the Jags played offensively last week, the Jags were still able to cover 8.5 point spread against the Cleveland Browns. So I feel like Cincinnati has more offensive talent. They have a better quarterback. They have a better running game and a solid defense. I feel like the Bengals should handle their business once again and drop the Browns to 0-11. And only hoping that I'm only have to see Hugh Jackson coach on the sideline 5 more times in a Cleveland Brown uniform. So that's why I like Tampa Bay here. That's why I like Cincinnati here -8 and Cincinnati straight up. Next game, Titans over Colts. This is one of those games where people want to look at the Colts and the Titans, who their last both opponents were the Steelers, and say, well, Indy was competitive against Pittsburgh at home, and Tennessee on the road got blown out by the Steelers. So the Indianapolis Colts have a better shot against the Titans than not. I feel like they have a shot because it's a division rivalry game, and you just throw the records all out the window when you play divisional games. But I just feel like, look, I took this pick earlier this year. I thought the Colts would win in Nashville, and I think Chuck Pagano, he overthought himself. He was too cute, and he basically cost them the game with those decision makings, with those decisions. But I'm going to take the Titans here because I feel like this solid, consistent team will continue to move forward with another good division win to keep them firmly in that 5th spot, which I believe they will be a wild card team this year because every other team in the AFC is not very good, if not trash, compared to the Titans. So that's why I like Tennessee here -3 and Tennessee straight up. Chiefs over Bills. I took the Chiefs because I know Tyrod Taylor is starting, but I don't know how long he is starting. But with that being said, I will take the Bills here +10 because Tyrod is back, and I feel like he will keep that game within a 10-score, a range of 10 points, and they have a much better defense right now than Kansas City does, and they're able to pass the ball more effectively compared to Alex Smith over the last few weeks. That looks like the original Alex Smith that everybody could not stand. So that's why I like Buffalo here +10, but Kansas City straight up. Next game, Panthers over Jets. This is one of the. Oh, you know what? I just realized something. I forgot a game. Pats over Dolphins. Patriots, Dolphins. The last game Matt Moore started was against Tom Brady. I'm sorry, the last home game he started was against Tom Brady. It's a 16.5 point spread. They won by 21. I rest my case. I feel like the Patriots are going to just blow them out and continue to just push forward to that game against Pittsburgh in a few weeks. That's why I like New England here -16.5 and New England straight up. Next game, Panthers over Jets. This is a tough game for me because I look at the Jets, and as a 4-6 team in the AFC, they are better than you think, and I think they are a borderline top 20 team at this point. They could even be a borderline top 15 team if you've seen how they played. Unfortunately, the Panthers have quietly been one of the more consistent teams in football. They have a very good defense led by Luke Kuechly and Thomas Davis. They have a decent secondary with James Bradbury, Worley, and Mike Mitchell roaming around the defense. And I just feel that, with the Panthers, that they're going to be able to hold their ground and play another solid, fundamental game of football that gets the Panthers the win. And if they win by a touchdown, which I'm going to say right now, they'll win at least by a touchdown, they will cover the 5.5 point spread given by Vegas. I thought about taking the Jets against the spread, but then I thought about it and I said, well, you know what? The Jets, they could, but I just don't think with how Carolina's playing, Todd Bowles and Josh McCown will run into that defense and be able to light them up. They won't. I feel pretty confident saying that. So that's why I like Carolina here, -5, and Carolina straight up. Next game, Eagles over Bears. The Eagles are the best team in football. The Bears have a really good defense, but everywhere else isn't that good. And it's as simple as that. The only reason why I took Chicago against the spread, though, because I do trust Chicago's defense. I think Chicago's defense should be able to hold that game within a 2-score range. If it doesn't, then that's really bad for the Bears, that even with a good defense, they're not able to keep a 14.5 point favorite to not be able to cover that spread. I'm sorry, 13.5. 13.5 point favorite to be able to cover that spread. So that's why I like Chicago here plus 13.5, but Philadelphia straight up. Next game, the Saints over the Rams. This is my toss-up game of the week. I would not be surprised if anybody takes the Rams. I feel like the Rams are the betting favorite. Here is my basic logic for this decision. Last week with the Rams and the Vikings, I went with the young, youthful, energetic talent against the veteran guy that, can be good. He has a lot of enthusiasm and he's turned the team around, but he can't win those big games. I feel this way with the Saints and the Rams. I feel like it's the same situation. So this time, where you have the young upstart team against the older guy and Drew Brees and the older defenders, the fundamental sticks that have been here in the modern era, like Drew Brees and Sean Payton, I'm going to take the experience this time over the youth because I feel like the Saints defense, which has been much improved, Dennis Allen has been around the block. He'll know how to defend Tavon Austin. Robert Woods is already out with an injury. Sammy Watkins, Tyler Higbee, and Cooper Kupp. Those 4 receivers will not be able to be as effective as they usually are. But with the Saints defense, they just lost their linebacker Alex Okafor to a torn Achilles, so he'll be out for the year. But I'm just going to take the Saints here because I'm going to trust the old and experience over the young, vibrant, and motivated in the Rams. So that's why I like New Orleans plus 2.5 and New Orleans straight up. Next game, Seahawks over Niners. The Seahawks played better than you'd think defensively. They held Matt Ryan under 200 yards. First time in 46 games he had gone under the 200-yard mark. All the running backs had about 40 yards or less individually. And the receivers played okay football. The problem is the fact that for the Seattle Seahawks, that defense is not the same without without Cam Chancellor and Richard Sherman. It's basically Earl Thomas and friends going after the quarterback. And just seeing how Matt Ryan was able to stay in that pocket and play one of the better games he's had all year is a huge problem for the Seahawks. And when you have a quarterback that's contributing 82% of his team's total offense, that is a huge problem the Seahawks will have to fix in the offseason. But I'm going to take Seattle here just because they've been able to play pretty bad teams on the road, and I feel like Russell Wilson's magic and just talent will be able to overcome what the Niners can do offensively. And the Niners really aren't caring at this point. They won their one game. They're done for the year. Everybody can move on. But I'm going to take Seattle here because I trust the running game to get back a spark or to play decently enough. And I just think like Seattle's defense can hold on to a Niners offense, which has been bad all year, to a good point to get their 4th straight road win. Alright, so that's why I like San Francisco here, plus 6.5, but Seattle straight up. Next game, Jags over Cardinals. Jags have the best defense in the NFL. They have the number 1 defense in yards, number 1 defense in points, and the number 1 rushing attack in the NFL. The Arizona Cardinals are just an old, beat-up car that lost its head driver and its backup driver, so now they're on their 3rd Uber driver, if you will, the backup to the backup. I was just trying to think. With Jacksonville, with Jacksonville, they just have this very good defense, phenomenal running game. It's very 2000 Ravens-like. That's what I was trying to say earlier. It's very 2000 Ravens-like in the sense of the quarterback isn't that good, and basically the defense and running game are carrying him to a Super Bowl. And I feel like if the Jags continue to win, they will be able to make a good claim to be a dark horse team in the NFL in terms of the playoffs. But I'm going to take Jacksonville here. I can't go against the number 1 defense against one of the worst offenses in the NFL. That's even with Larry Fitzgerald on the team. So that's all like Jacksonville minus 5 and Jacksonville straight up. Next game, Raiders over Broncos. It's Paxton Lynch. Derek Carr versus Paxton Lynch. Both teams are basically the same, or both basically have qualities they wish they had and qualities they wish they didn't, so that's a push, in my opinion. But I'm going to take the Oakland Raiders here because they are home. The Broncos have not won a road game this whole year, and I feel like for the Oakland Raiders, this is something where they can kind of play a solid game to get the fans motivated that they can still make the playoffs even at a 5-6 record. So that's why I like Denver here plus 5, but Oakland straight up. Finally, last 2 games, Pittsburgh over Steelers over Packers. The Steelers are one of the best teams in the NFL, probably the 3rd best, the best team in the AFC North, and the Packers are just awful with Brett Hundley. Brent Hundley is all I have to say. The Ravens shut out the Packers 23-0, and they haven't been shut out in over 10 years. So if we can do that, the Steelers can do exactly the same thing, but the worst part is they can do much better offensively than the Ravens could. Do I think the Packers have a little bit of a shot? Maybe if they get off to a hot start, but I don't think they will. But also just anger from Packers fans that with their quarterback going down, the level of importance, the level of respect drops so much that teams are not afraid of the Green Bay Packers as they used to be with number 12 back there. But I'm going to take Pittsburgh here just because if we could beat them by 23, the Pittsburgh Steelers should be able to win by at least 14-7 themselves, which would cover the spread. So that's why I like Pittsburgh minus 14 and Pittsburgh straight up. And finally, the Ravens over the Texans. I'm going to trust the Ravens in this game on the sense of we have a better defense, we have a Super Bowl winning quarterback, and I feel like Bill O'Brien and the Texans are just there to look over how everybody's doing. And they will be all they'll be all right. And I just feel like with Tom Savage, he hit his ceiling yesterday. He had the best game as a pro. He got a win that he fully participated in. But I don't think the Ravens are going to give up 31 points. We're not going to give up 2 to 3 to 4 goofy turnovers that lets you kids get far. That lets the Texans be able to survive in the AFC South. It should be an interesting game because the Texans are going to get Brian Cushing back, and the Ravens did have 4 turnovers at one point and only could score 6 points. So this team is not a very good team, but we are in the playoffs, and I'm going to trust that we will take the momentum of what we did from this game and put it into a good spot for the next game, where 4 of our final 6 games for the Baltimore Ravens are at home, and I do expect them to win at least 4 of those 6 games. That would drop them then to 9-7, which could be enough to make the playoffs anyway. So that's why I like Baltimore minus 7 and Baltimore straight up. And that's it. So, shout out to the NFL YouTube prognosticators page, Half Moon's Picks, Keith Bailey, Ryan Harris Show, Philadelphia, Andrew Warren, Bridgewater's Finest, Hatbox Nation, Geo Knows, all those guys and gals that do videos like this every week. They're out there. You can see what they think on the games, what their rationale is, and see if you agree or disagree. And if anybody has any football questions, you can put them in the comments, and I'll be happy to answer them for you. Let's see. Lastly, I do want to tell everybody that's watching my videos, I will my placement was finished today for my schooling, so I will be able to have more time to put more details and be able to put the videos out. I'm going to be shooting for, again, Tuesday afternoons between 2 and 3 o'clock. That's what I'm shooting for. Either Tuesday afternoons or Tuesday evenings to do my videos, because now I'll have the whole day on Tuesday to work on my videos again, because I've done my placement. So that's it. So good luck to all players, coaches, teams, fantasy owners, and fellow prognosticators. And from me to everybody that's watching, have a great Thanksgiving, happy Thanksgiving, and enjoy the 3 F's of Thanksgiving: family, food, and football. And until next week, this is Matt the NFL Fanatic, signing off. Till then, so long.